Shabbat Shalom. Mazel Tov Noah, to you and to your entire mishpacha on this really wonderful Shabbat. It's been a tough week. It's really good to be able to be together and to celebrate. I spoke a little earlier about how we are reeling from the tragic deaths of Yaron and Sarah. Once again, we see how hateful rhetoric can turn into hateful action. The situation in so many places in the world is so deeply challenging. We see the situation in Gaza and its devastation, and most acutely for all of us, our hostages are still not home. And yet amidst all of that, we had some glimmers of light. Last week, Omer Ben Shem Tov visited the Boston area, who was just released a few months ago in the last negotiated settlement. And he came and visited Boston. Where did he go on Monday night? Went to Fenway Park. And so I went to follow two of my favorite baseball teams. Won't tell you which one I was rooting for, but nonetheless, I was unsuccessful on Monday. But nonetheless, it was a wonderful Jewish heritage night. Our group from Amuna braved the cold, got their Hebrew Red Sox jerseys. I have to say, really did not look bad at all. And thanks to Terry Schwartz-Russell, who organized the group, also wore these beautiful stickers that say, "Be like Mike," that she is holding up for us to see as we lift up the memory of our beloved Mike Rosenberg, who not only was the pillar of our synagogue, sitting right behind David there every Shabbat, and in the corner of our minyan every single morning, 365 days of the year, but we also loved the Red Sox. And he threw out the opening pitch 2 years ago at Jewish Heritage Night. May his memory be for a blessing. Now, walking around the concourse that night was really, really fun. It was bumping into a lot of people that I knew, seeing kippot everywhere, people wearing their tzitzit, Hebrew shirts. I heard Hebrew. It kind of felt like walking up and down Ben Yehuda Street in Jerusalem. And then, my favorite, there was a kosher food stand, which was really great until the 40-minute wait to get a hot dog. And I just kind of took a whiff and said, I'm good. But what was clear that evening was that this was a space where we could be publicly Jewish, where we could be Jewish and not be afraid. And yet, of course, that's not where many of us, where many Jews, where many Americans are feeling right now. We're feeling threatened. The recent attack in D.C. has only heightened that. October 7th now, anti-Semitism has surged, and it has made people afraid. Not only afraid for themselves, but afraid to speak out, afraid to call out injustice. Fear plays right into the hands of all our enemies. Fear is what the enemies of democracy want. Fear feeds hate. So this Shabbat, I want to ask you to do something challenging. I want to ask you not to be afraid. I ask you to stand with me and not be afraid, because this moment in history demands it. I never thought that I would say this. I never even imagined that I would even contemplate saying this. But I'm concerned for the very welfare of our democracy. Right now, people are being detained and deported without due process. Many of these cases you know. Kilmar Abrego Garcia from Maryland, deported to El Salvador, despite a judge granting him protection, and the government admitting that it made, quote, an administrative error. And the Supreme Court telling our government, you must bring him back. Our government refusing to do so. U.S.-born children have been deported alongside their foreign-born parents. The case of a Wisconsin judge handcuffed and shackled in her own courtroom. A chilling attack on judicial independence. Law firms, critical for democracy and the rule of law. Law firms being denied access to federal buildings unless they pledge loyalty to the administration. DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, rescinding protections for sacred spaces, synagogues, schools, and hospitals, discouraging immigrants from even entering a house of worship. And maybe most unbelievably, the President of the United States of America, publicly saying that he does not know if he is supposed to uphold due process, that he does not know if he should uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. My friends, these are not partisan issues. These are not policy differences. These are about the most basic, fundamental values: the right to free speech, the right to due process, the rule of law. If these rights crumble, if they fall, anyone can be taken off the street and sent away deliberately, mistakenly, who knows, and never returned. As Jews, we know this story. We've lived this story. And our tradition is crystal clear. The Torah speaks to due process in the book of Deuteronomy and Dvarim. It says that you need 2 witnesses to convict. The Talmud teaches us that the accused had a right to speak at his own trial and present evidence even after the trial. And in Masechet Sanhedrin, it also states that the judges are required to search for reasons to acquit, even going beyond what the defendant brings. And that any new evidence, anything potentially that could help exonerate someone, reopens the trial, means that there's a re-examination. So thank God, some people are speaking out. There is a growing movement, maybe trickling up. I hope it grows. A growing movement to defend democracy, and thankfully it includes Jews from across the political spectrum, Democrats and Republicans. One organization right now, a more perfect union, the Jewish Partnership for Democracy, is bringing together voices from the left and the right, Orthodox rabbis, Reform rabbis, all together to defend our democratic values. Organizations like the ADL are part of this, the JCRCs, synagogues, educational institutions. At an event recently in Wayland, 125 people attended and learned about this. Temple Isaiah will be hosting them on June 17th, and I hope you'll all be there. But you don't have to wait until June. About a month ago, I joined with a group of interfaith clergy to write a letter about these egregious violations of due process. I wrote it with my interfaith colleagues here in Lexington. And with one of my friends who's a minister in Cambridge and a group of other ministers, and with the support of the GBIO, the Greater Boston Interfaith Organization, with whom we are affiliated, and the Massachusetts Council of Churches and other rabbinic leaders, as of now, more than 200 clergy from all different faiths have signed on to this expanded version of our letter, which we hope to deliver to our representatives. We are building a public voice at this time of unique danger, but we actually need more than just letters. We need bold action. So we're planning something historic. Get excited. On Friday, 6 days, May 30th, clergy from all different faiths will be walking, reversing Paul Revere's ride. And we're not even using a horse. We'll be walking from the Lexington Battle Green all the way through Arlington, Cambridge, across the river to Boston Common. We will not be shouting, the redcoats are coming, but our rights are being taken. And we need you. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't get permitting for all of the 12 miles of this walk. And maybe you're grateful for that. You're like, 12 miles? Oy. The clergy will be walking, hopefully. See how they do. Got to check my ankles. But I need you to participate. There is going to be the largest gathering at the Boston Common at 2 p.m., a rally and interfaith prayers. And along the way, you can meet us. Stop and pray and sing. 7:30 to 7:45 in Lexington on the Green, 9:45 to 10:15 at Arlington Center, or 11:30 to noon at Cambridge Common. And yes, bring friends, bring everyone you know, bring your dog, bring all faiths. This is a moment where I encourage every student, take off from school. Leave early from school. Everyone who has a job, take off. I would call this like a mandated moment, an absolute mitzvah. And if you're retired, good news. You're available. I need actual helping on the ground, what we call from cycling a sag wagon. Anyone familiar with this term? Yes, the supply and gear wagon. I need folks who could drive a car and follow us. In case I have any clergy who don't make it. But I need people to hold up signs, bring them forward, singers, photographers, cheerleaders. If you can help, please let me know. Now, I've been asked over the course of the last months, as I've spoken about this threat to our democracy, over and over again, why is it Jewish? Why do we need to hear about this in shul? So I want to speak to it yet again. Why is standing up for justice Jewish? Let's go back again to the Torah. Let's go back to the book of Deuteronomy. Let's go back to that section speaking about justice. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice you shall pursue. Even if it eludes you, get on your horse and ride after it. Lo tamod al damreacha. Do not stand idly by. And my favorite from the Talmud, shtika kehoda'ah dami. Silence is consent. We may never be silent in the face of injustice. Abstaining is not an option, my friends. Elie Wiesel, may his memory be for a blessing, said it best. Quote, neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Speak out. When he received the Nobel Prize, these were his words to us. Now, it's not always easy to speak up, especially when you're afraid. People are afraid to put their name on things. People are afraid to post their pictures anywhere. People are afraid. But we are called to do it. I'll use a great Boston history example for you aficionados of American history. In 1770, there was a terrible massacre where now stands the old State House. What was the name of that massacre? It was an easy one. The Boston Massacre. British soldiers killed American colonists. As you can imagine, people in Boston were pretty angry. They wanted revenge. But there was a lawyer who stood up and said, I'm going to do something at risk of his own career, his own life. John Adams. Some people only know him for alcoholic beverages, but John Adams, who would later become United States president, said, you know what? I am going to defend these soldiers. I'm going to risk my own practice and maybe even my own life for due process. And at great personal risk, he stood up for law, even with people he disagreed with, who did something clearly wrong. And he later said it was one of the most important things he did in his whole life. But let's go way back. Let's go back 4,000 years to our own tradition. The model for this is Abraham. Abraham comes before Adam's, alphabetically and chronologically. When God told him that he was going to destroy Sodom, Abraham did not stay silent. He challenged God. The most powerful words, HaShofet kol haaretz lo yaseh mishpat, will the judge of all the universe not do justice? And then come back 4,000 years later, back to Abraham, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, marching with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1965 in Selma said, quote, when I marched in Selma, my legs were praying. Friends, it's time for us to start praying with our feet, with our voices, with everything that we have. One day when your children, or God willing grandchildren, or your students, or anyone asks you, what were you doing in 2025 to defend democracy? You'll be able to say, I stood up. I spoke out. I walked for justice. May God bless this country, and may our democracy shine like a beacon of light to the world. Let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.